Welcome back to part two. In part one, we were meditating on um, the enablement of tools, resulting into, I'm going to skip a couple of angles, increasing autonomy angle, also leading to data, capturing insights, explore the second machine age angle, just going to briefly touch base on the scientific principle or the method, how ethics is at the heart of everything, further meditations on the scales, solar system, relative distance, series of events being observed, uh, more tools, better data, more insights, further understanding about the cosmos, but in the kind of relative backyard, as distant as it may be from us, we're still talking about light years. So the degree that was going to have an impact on us in some sense, I don't really know the answer to that question. Was just because the question of what is happening with events like Beetlejuice and Assassin 21 GJ or QJ. I always mix it up. Was the other one around? But definitely, I'm not talking about these events in a sensationalist sense. That is not my intention. Um, so yeah, and obviously exploring the aspect of what the data represents. The data could represent something on a scale that is much more like not elaborate, but extensive. Uh, so yeah, there's like taking a look at the things from a from the perspective of Drake's equation. They're still working on this model. We're just taking a if I could drop the probabilities down more, I would down to decimal places. This is the section we were at. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. Just watch part one of this video. Uh, This video is being recorded on November the 29th, 2023. So this is part two. So to build up on this model, um, the probability, as I was saying, that life as it developed intelligence, so like kind of was talking about how this has happened on Earth. Um, the dinosaurs did have a certain level of intelligence, but I don't see any evidence. I don't know. Maybe they were super advanced or building pyramids and computers and experienced a singularity and went through some portal and boom, they're in some other parallel reality or some other part of the universe or what have you, right? But uh, I think intelligence is relative, so I won't talk about this, but it doesn't seem like there was any kind of space program or any measures against, in this case, for the dinosaurs, it was an existential risk for almost all of them, other than the ones that have survived, like crocodiles and what have you, chickens, and well, us also. We weren't dinosaurs at that time. We were like an animal the size of a shrew. Um, and so yeah. So coming back to the Drake's equation, I would think that as life develops, that on the evolutionary time scale, I've I would feel 15% of all life that is developed around the universe. Well, this model focuses on the Milky Way, right? It's somewhere here. Where is it? Yeah. Okay. This one is focusing on the galaxy because it's taking the sum of 100 billion, right? And then to the first series of probabilities spitting out this number, 45 billion. So as we kind of continue to build on this, I would say 15% is fairly reasonable in an uneducated sense, but I'm going to drop it down more. Let's drop it down to just like 2 or 3%. That 2 or 3% of all life that develops some kind of an intelligence. Oh, now we're at the intersection of life developing intelligence. We already dropped down to 1%. And we are saying that there's intelligent life of some sort. Like the question is, what was Drake thinking when he said intelligence? I think this is a huge conversation by itself because sometimes I would think that humans are quite incredible beings for I would think like I don't even know how a quantum computer works, but it seems like a incredible achievement. Even the making of a computer, like what Turing and Conrad Zuse did independently, is quite remarkable. That the ability to be able to compute information, they build up on the work that others did in the past, like Babbage and Ada of Lovelace. But by itself, it's quite an astonishing achievement. There are other hints of that in the history, like the Antikythera mechanism. Well, many such examples. Um, so on one hand, I would think it's quite incredible. Like, it's like not just the invention itself; it's the invention of culture, of ethics, of uh, clemency, and human rights. These are all incredible achievements. I don't want to pour water on all of that. On the other hand, I would it's like sometimes I would think humans maybe are not as intelligent because we could be on not. I don't want to sound like conspiratorial, but we could be pretty close to an extinction event, whether it's through human error or like human error or terror, as Lord Grease would say, or some cosmic risk or something else, right? Um, I don't know what else it could be. Like maybe something's happening in another universe, it impacts us. I don't know the time aspect. I won't get into that. But so it depends how you look at it. Um, there's no difference. Sorry, there's no doubt that we're remarkably different from all the other species on this planet. But there's a couple of different points. Like one of which I mentioned. The other is also the like living in harmony with our environment, which we're not doing. So if you exhaust the host, which is Earth, then the species would die. So like if that happens, then we're like how intelligent are we? Um, so there's a couple of different like angles to this. Like we are incredibly intelligent on one end, but on the other hand, we are also quite dumb. And whatever amount of intelligence we have developed so far, uh, I don't know if it's provable that the level of intelligence developed so far, however it's evolving as it relates to our evolution with machines, whether the machines themselves are conscious or not, that's another question. But whatever level we're at, it seems to there's no guarantee that life will continue for humans. Life itself will continue, most probably will continue, but is life going to continue for humans? Is the question. There's also the question. Then I don't know how you draw the scale, but I guess you could. I don't know. I didn't think about this too much. But say we're somewhere here, right? Not uh, not say we're somewhere here, right? And this is the entire summation of the human existence. All like Carl Sagan would say, the pale blue dot, right? Um, and also all the knowledge that we've gathered is contained here and is embedded within the culture, right? Because that's not Calvin Klein, by the way. But that's all like the culture encodes or encompasses all the knowledge that we've gathered so far, and the rate of knowledge that we're gathering seems to be increasing. It could be plateauing, depends on how you look at it. Um, um, Now, if that is uh, represented as like basically this is all we know, right? Everything we know is here because everything that we seek to know is also here, right? And so I gotta gather my thoughts here. So you could think of this as species wide, right? So intelligence has played a huge role here. I don't know where exactly I'm going to draw this intelligence. Let me draw it somewhere here. Intelligence. This goes back to the question about consciousness, and well, I think of technosignatures and super intelligence, but I'm not going to explore these angles right now. But suppose that we are the only intelligence, and uh, if some risk is posed uh, that could, uh, like we're the VUCA, they say this is a term from the military, I reckon. I'm not sure, but it stands for volatility, uncertainty, chaos, and ambiguity. So I don't know how you draw a VUCA scale, but we have been on some pretty stable territory, at least from the perspective of past maybe thousands of years, right? So I'm not going to get into what happened with the Younger Dryas period, whether some comet did burst in the Earth's atmosphere, caused massive floods, and what have you. I'm not going to get into all those theories. But I mean, there's another theory that says there's some massive volcano that erupted. I think the time range is 50,000 years. So the Tuba catastrophe is called, but there's some criticism towards that model saying it didn't cause a genetic bottleneck. Um, if the theory is true, then only maybe a couple of million to maybe tens of thousands of humans survive. But obviously, if it's not true, then it didn't cause a genetic bottleneck, right? So I don't know. But for the from the result of the past couple of thousand years, so let's take an average sampling. Uh, this is uh, well, uh, this is 3000 BC, right? This point here is 3000 BC, and this is today, 2023, Anno Domini. So if I did my math right, that is more than 5,000 years, right? Now, there's other people here also. I'm not going to go through the exhaustive list. There's some fellow named Robert Schoch, SCHOCH, who is actually a geologist, SCHOCH. He's a geologist. He's not an archaeologist. He looks at rocks and impression of kind of phenomena on rocks and material stratification and what have you. So when he looked at the pyramids, he's got like I won't go into the theories, but like I think one of his theories is that Earth has experienced massive solar flares in the past, and there's also another lady uh, independently. I don't know how much of her research has inspired Shock and vice versa, but this is a researcher out of Japan. There's criticism for both of these researchers. Well, this researcher is a geologist. This researcher studies tree rings, MIYAKE, and her data suggests that events like Carrington were not even the most significant events, and that there were a lot more significant events, solar events, or maybe other events that are embedded into the tree rings. So you have tree rings. So I don't know how to draw tree rings, but you have tree rings, and what happens is there's some isotopes, right? Ah, that's a tree ring. So if you cut a tree, you see the tree rings. When phenomena comes from space, it goes through stuff. As it going through stuff, it's got something called isotopes. Isotopes. Again, as a reminder, whatever I'm sharing is not to be shared in a sensationalist sense. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just saying things the way I've been thinking about them, and I'm not even sure if I'm thinking about them right. So please do not be alarmed. It's not sensationalist. Nothing's happening to the best of my knowledge, other than the stuff that I shared in part one of the video, and I have no idea if that has any bearing on us. So So I'm not sharing this in an alarmist sense. That is never going to be my. I hope that is not my intention. I really do. But yeah, so please don't be alarmed as a reminder. Here's a come back to the tree rings and the Miyake theory as the isotopes. By the way, Scientific American, once again, I've a shout out to Scientific American. Their articles are really well written. I've not read this article, but if I was retired, I would definitely get a subscription for Scientific American. I just love the way their articles are written. They're really well researched, and from my uneducated, non-scientific perspective, I feel Scientific American does the due diligence to ensure that their articles are rigorous in a scientific manner. So, anyways, coming back to the Miyake events, and there was an article on this uh, phenomena that I'm talking about in Scientific American. I just forget which year and which month. But as the isotopes go through organic matter, in this case, tree rings or the trees, they leave an imprint within the tree rings. So by looking at certain isotopes, like I think is beryllium and another set of isotopes, you can see the like I forget the details from this point, where you can tell the degree to which the some event was happening in that era, because you can then carbon date uh, that well thing itself. You can carbon date the tree, the material in the tree or the rocks or what have you. But it's mostly found in the tree rings. But yeah, whatever the phenomena may be, um, if it did happen today, whether it's a super volcano or a significant flare or I don't know. I think the probability that a gamma ray burst is pointing right at us. I don't know how to deduce that probability. If it was pointing somehow straight at Earth, and well, the distances are immense. Is I don't know what the because I don't know the probabilities. I wouldn't come up with the analogy in this case. But I would think that would be being getting hit with a gamma ray burst directly would be a statistical anomaly. That being said, I think there are some research papers that suggest that specific extinction events were caused by some phenomena like gamma ray burst. Specific major and minor extinction events were could have been caused. I don't know how they attach the problem by cosmic, some cosmic event. Okay, you can Google this. Specific extinction events could have been caused by some cosmic event. These papers are scientifically uh, it's rigorous research suggests that not all but some. Uh, we know there's very clear evidence of Chicxulub. That's I forget. I think it's the fifth major extinction event. So Chicxulub was definitely caused by some cosmic event. And it looks like I think it should be here. I'll just move that up there. And so yeah, Chicxulub. I was talking about Chicxulub earlier. Chicxulub was plus minus 66 million years ago, caused by a asteroid. I forget how wide it was. I think it was like about 100 kilometers wide. Maybe not as. I think it was around 100 kilometers wide, and it came at an angle, and it hurt. It hit Earth at the present day location called Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, and the sheer force and the direction, the trajectory that it hit with led to the fifth major extinction event on Earth. Fifth major extinction event was 66 million years ago. Now, you have to. I was thinking about this. And if if uh, uh, how do I get this back? I don't want the eraser. I want this. Oh, this is how I do it. So if this was 66 million years ago, MYA, right? Then I don't have the timeline, but this was the big one, right? So like the question is, how do you measure this? You can say this is known as a ELE. Again, please, when I use these terms, I don't mean this in an alarmist sense or anything like that. But this was definitely an ELE, extinction level event. There were four before this. Now, how do you categorize them and the degree to which they led to extinctions? Like, I don't know how you would calculate that. So that's a topic by itself, I would think. But there's been these cycles on Earth um, where life kind of. I guess there's a bunch of different ways to look at this, but uh, you have the emergence of all this life. You could say by species or by some other variable, and some event happens, and then life falls. But the thing is, also there could be a lot of other extinction events. Maybe they were not as extensive as the other ones. Not as extensive as the big one, two, three, four, uh, five, right? So if that is five, then we need to draw the line. This one again, please ignore. There's that, fix that. So there must be smaller extinction events, right? So we're gonna try and uh, see how this goes. Like, I don't know how many smaller. I mean, this is not too this doesn't represent reality of how life went through. It depends on what you mean by life too, right? It could be like this, right? I don't know. Um, Again, this is not to scale. Don't need to do that. But remember, now we're talking about billions of years, right? Billions of years. Or it hit this, or this would actually be like this, right? When it hit this, it was like this, and this is the last one, the big one. The last big one was 66 million years ago. But life could have followed some kind of trajectory like this, um, and not just this one, but all of these red ones would uh, categorize some extinction development. Okay, so this is the. Sorry, I didn't time it like this. So when I switch it back to this, it coming back to this tab. That was not intentional. Let's go back to Drake's equation and pick up where we left off, talking about the Drake's equation, because we're talking about this in part one. If you haven't seen this bit, please go back to the channel and click on video. It's going to sort by latest by default. If it doesn't, click on that. And if you're watching, well, whatever the title of this video is that you're watching right now, it will just say the same but part one. So you can copy paste that in the search, and that would be another way of making it. So now we were on this section. There's probably chance that life can communicate across space. So I dropped it down to 2%. So again, if I could drop it more, I would, like at least for the previous set of probabilities. It's like usually a single, like 1% is what I'm taking. Okay, length of time a civilization sends signals into space. That's 10 million years. That seems like a long time. Again, this is a conversation by itself because on Earth we have seen that this much time has passed for humans to develop brains. Like, how do you? which I don't know which color I want to change, but I would say brains look something like this. Let's try this, right? So like this, try draw the folds in the brain, right? And so it took quite some time uh, for brains to start emerging, and I don't know what that really means on the timeline. So say this is when now this is based on the assumption that the moon collapsed into not collapsed but crashed into the earth, that there was already life here or not, but I don't know. Let's go back. I don't know how old the earth is. Let's find out. How old is the earth? How old is the earth? Okay, I thought it was older than that. So say the earth was formed 4.5 billion years ago. Billion with a B, right? So this would be negative, but whatever. So I would have I would think a couple of billion years would have passed or more maybe, because if this was day zero, Earth is just formed, and this is today, how do we divide this scale? Like, what is a good, appropriate bunch of chunks or segments? This would be 50% representing 2.5 billion years. This would be, well, this is, well, roughly speaking, this is 2.25, 2.25. Well, this all of this represent 4.5 billion, so this would be 2.25 billion, right? And so this would be 1.12 billion, 12, 24, 1.12, 1.12, 1.12, 13 billion, right? And so this would be 1.1, 0.5, 0.6 billion or something like that. And then this would be 0.3 billion, which would be 300 million years. So my intuitive guess is that brains would have started evolving somewhere here. So this should actually move here, is it? Like here. I mean, it's extending beyond the timeline, but that's not intentional. Uh, so yeah, brains I would think are a construct. Even in their rudimentary form, I would think it's like a 300 million to 600 million year affair. Because we already have evidence that if this was 300 million, this would be 150 million. And this dot right here would be 70 million. I mean, we already have evidence that there were dinosaurs running around. This dot represents dinosaurs right here. They had some kind of brain. It wasn't like, it doesn't look like, again, they're making quantum computers or whatnot, but they had, that doesn't, it's not supposed to denote like an exclamation mark. So there was some intelligence there, even with dinosaurs. But I guess where I'm going with this is that we have we've evolved in the 66 million year time scale, right? So again, Chicxulub here takes 66 million years. Sorry, it's taken 66 million years to get from the last extinction event to today, which is So um, 10 million years. So like imagine. Sorry. Now we switch to a different model. Now we switch to this model, um, whereby we are now uh, a tool making species. We are computing information, uh, and we're not invoking consciousness yet, and all of it's possibly intricate. And I won't get into the consciousness conversation. My criticism of that model is if consciousness is supreme, let's imagine. If that is true, there's still some set of ethics guiding that. But even in that reality, what if in that realm, everybody can do whatever they want? You see the problem with that. So you need to have some kind of a ledger or. Anyways, my thoughts on this topic are not formed. I'm not gonna get. That's why I decided specifically not to explore the consciousness angle. This model. Let's switch to this model. I would think this is Kurzweil influencing my thinking. I would think the probability that intelligent tool making species would develop computers or some construct like a computer is quite high. The reason why I say this is that intelligent species would want to simulate their reality, at the very least, their reality. So, as intelligent species develop the simulations to model their reality, you need computers for that because I don't know of another way to do that. Maybe you can do that with consciousness. So, if the intelligent tool making species make computers, then it is seems like a high probability that they will develop some AGI. So for us, that depends on how you look at this. Because you could look at something like the anti-Kara mechanism and say that was at least 3,000 years old. That is like an analog computer, right? Well, you could say, well, we should look at this from the perspective of maybe mathematics, or you could say that we should only think about this in purely like computational sense. So, Babbage, Lovelace, Turing, Zusi, boom, you have the modern computers. Von Neumann, pretty much the von Neumann model is being used in every computer, based on the best of my understanding. Um, all of this has happened in a span of less than 100 years. If we go from Turing to now, Turing was the one who gave us the modern computer. That was around 1940s. So it's 80 or 90 years plus minus. I think it was there, like I don't know what exactly was the timeline, but it's like, see, it's 1940s. So 60, 70, 80, 83, 80, 83, 85, maybe 90 years to get to the existing reality, where we are close to an AGI kind of reality. So this is why I switched to this. So when AGI emerges, I would think you would go pretty quickly to a super intelligence. That is me. I'm thinking this. I could be wrong. That's why I switched to this model because um, what's going to happen here is, I would think, largely an unknown. Whatever happens beyond this realm is unknown, like beyond AGI. But this model is rather simplistic because this model about the techno signatures, which is basically a modified version of the Drake's equation. I took the Sarah Seeger equation, who based it off of the Drake's equation. I haven't thought about this as much, so I won't talk about this. But this model is flowing one way, the previous model. How can I go back here? Give me one second. This model is flowing one way, as you see. It's based on the assumption that we already have AIs. We have them today in Siri and self-driving cars and other realm. This is going to lead to some general purpose intelligence that was going to be able to do most of the, if not all the mechanical functions and all the functions of the mind. It's not going to do it the same way as the mind or the brain does, but it's going to be able to do that, including tasks of imagination and creativity, right? Um, and it's probably going to do them better. Now, if there are other AGIs that exist somewhere in the realm, this is where the techno signature angle comes in, which again I'm not going to expand on. Then this is not a one way reality. So you can think of, this is why I put universal ethics here, and I put it strategically in between this reality because another caveat, or if you have not read Ray Kurzweil, and if you are not following AI news at this point, I got to make this distinction. Then you may not get, and I don't mean to insult you or anything of that sort. It's not my intention. I'm just saying you need to at least have a basic understanding. Like at least you should have used tools like ChatGPT to understand like where, or sit in a must have sat in a self-driving car or something of that nature. But you have to follow some. I don't follow the news related to AI every day, but I try to educate myself on the topic because it seems to be a transformative development. I don't know if you want to call it technology. It is a technology, but it could be a lot more than that very, very soon in a human sense. Yeah, this is why I put the come back to the topic. This is why, and again, I don't mean to say what I'm saying is to, but you need to have a background. So, like you have to have an understanding, and you got to read the books. You got to read Kurzweil. You got to. I've not read a lot of Hofstadter. Sorry, I've not read any of Hofstadter um, or any other. I think I should read Hofstadter. Um, who would be who's got a perspective that is like contrary to Kurzweil's take on this topic. Like I've only seen one episode of Hofstadter critiquing Kurzweil's work, but it seems to have been coming from a place of ego. Um, I don't, I can't, I don't feel that like I can't say how much of Kurzweil's work is grounded in mathematics. He talks about it a fair bit. Um, I mean, like exponentials, singularity is near, and talking about Markov models and how to create a mind, and making comments like paraphrased. People don't appreciate how powerful mathematics can be, the profound. Like what? So anyway, but Hofstadter wasn't really critiquing his work. He was doing some broad kind of brushstroke kind of generalizations and trying to like it sounded like ego versus like an actual counter uh, narrative. In contrast, like if I would watch there was a talk between Peter Schwartz. There's a different context. I think it was through the Long Now Foundation. Sorry, I think I'm not sure. I think Russell Brand was the moderator. Peter Schwartz was there, and there was another guy named Neil Gaiman, who was a historian. I think that was an effective reboot, like a challenge. So Peter Schwartz, it's a totally different context. Peter Schwartz was talking about the future scenario planning, but Neil Gaiman was he was presenting some pretty credible counter arguments. Anyways, but if anyone knows of a narrative that is like step by step dismantles Kurzweil's work, like in a systematic fashion, it's like grounded in some pretty good base realities. I would really love to review that. For another example, actually I won't get into it because this video is going to be like 5 hours long. So let's go back to the Drake's equation. Just kind of went off on a tangent there. Yeah, I was talking about it's kind of like all over the place right now. It's like from future scenario planning to what have you. Um, but yeah, if you need to have an understanding for anyways. So let's stick to the Drake's equation because we got to wrap this up at some point. Um, so seeing that brains are, I would feel, relatively newer phenomena. Um, so that's 50%. That's 25%. That's 12. Right? 50%, 25, 12%, and 6%. Yeah, the brains are a relatively newer phenomenon on Earth. So brains develop, they develop intelligence. We're making assumptions here that you need intelligence. Sorry, you need brains in order to develop intelligence because we also see experiments here on Earth where um, you have a dish and then you have in that dish some food, some source, whatever, glucose, whatever, and then you have slime mold, and you can YouTube this, and the slime mold, it doesn't look like a slime mold has a brain, but it's trying all of these iterations. It's going in this direction, that direction, this direction, that direction, that direction. It's not completely stupid. Like it doesn't keep doing. It was if the slime mold was really stupid, it would just do the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, right? It was just so it's not doing that. It has awareness of its locality. It's not repeating the same functions over and over again. There's probably another series of complex, I don't know how you say calculations, but there's something going on here because I think one of the things it's also doing is its own internal state. Like, how does it deduce that? So it must have some means to be able to assess its own energy state. The whole reason why it's trying to do that is to get to some source of energy. And it keeps trying and trying and trying and trying. You could see it actually moving eventually till it gets to the source. Now, I won't go beyond that, like if it has senses, like some sense of like some receptors that can pick up some kind of chemical whiff, right? Um, so that is a possibility, but I don't know like how you can prove that. But yeah, this is a video on YouTube. You can Google. Uh, you just put this on YouTube, and you can you can sleep. Blah blah blah. Slime mold. So the slime mold is exhibiting some level of intelligence. Now imagine if this was intelligence level, I don't know, 100 on the slime mold scale, not human scale, slime mold scale. What would be the equivalent of a slime mold intelligence that is on the order of magnitude more, however you equate intelligence? It can form different pattern recognizers. It can make a lot more elaborate sense. It can do pretty much everything we can do and more, right? So I don't know how you'd um, explain it mathematically, but it would be some exponential function, right? 10 to the power something. Um, what would that slime mold be like? Now, the whole reason I'm sharing this is because there may not be a necessity to have brains in order to be able to compute information or to there's like different schools taught here like compute information or show signs of intelligence. uh, I say that because there's like different schools taught on whether the brain is actually computing information. I think I'm not sure about what I'm talking about, but there's the clear evidence of some intelligent behavior, and I kind of did the contrarian view on that earlier. But what I'm saying here is that slime mold is demonstrating intelligence behavior. What would be the equivalent of some exponential version of slime mold? It would be demonstrating, in theory, all these incredible intelligent behaviors and wouldn't have a brain. There's no brain there. So, anyways, because why I'm exploring this line of thought is because the 10 million years made me think about the evolution of brains. So that led me to think about this model that I was sharing. And that led me to think about the other angle. So this is flowing one way. And that led me to think about technosignatures, which is this model, which brings us back once again to Drake's equation. And I would think that if it has taken us plus minus 100 years, let's say 80 to 100 years to go from modern computers to close to AGI, and then shortly thereafter is going to be super intelligence. If this is true for most of life out there, then what does it mean? I think I'm getting into too much detail. Well, this is making a big assumption, right? Because there's a bunch of different theories here. Um, I don't know if this is on topic, but well, I think this is on topic because there's something called the dark forest, right? So I think that's what it's called. I think this is on topic. Let me verify. Let me then verify. But sorry, give me one second. Sorry, it's called because there's a novel by the same name. So this is actually called the Dark Forest Hypothesis. So this is the Dark Forest Hypothesis. You can Wikipedia it. Um, from the main paragraph, the hypothesis is that aliens, however they exist throughout the universe, they are silent. I'm going to represent that with an S and hostile. Okay? That's why the forest is dark. It's like when some say like cheetah or yourself. This is the forest. Imagine. I'll draw it here. Like there's a boundary between this and this. So this is the forest, right? And all the trees. Let's just that's not what I wanted to do. How do you do this again? Like this, like that. Okay. And this is the forest. So I think this is unnecessary what I'm doing. And say typically there's all these creatures doing their creaturey things, but the moment the agent or actor walks through the forest, right, with their bow and arrow, whatever, these creatures disappear, right? They just vanish into their tunnels, whatever, right? So that's why this is the equivalent. This was totally not necessary. Hostile. Well, this would represent hostile, and that would represent silent. Yeah, right? Mm. Now, there's a Kardashev model angle to this, uh, which I'm gonna talk about in the part three, or I'll see if I can keep recording here. I probably should be okay because that took 300 megs, 300. Yeah, I should be okay. So stretch it, push it. Okay, so coming back to the Drake's equation, I'm a little skeptical that all of these, first of all, they develop intelligence and can communicate across space. I chose 2% as a lower number, and I don't know if it's aligned with the dark forest hypothesis. On the other hand, life could be intelligent life could be one giant cosmic party, or the equivalent of. Like we're talking about post scarcity realities, radical life extension, and possibly indefinite life extension. Um, and I haven't read any of Ian Banks to be able to elaborate on the culture series. Um, but I would think like if like you could explore it from like a Star Trek angle. So at least in the sense of the Milky Way, life is Star Trekish, right? So yeah, I'm a little skeptical if civilizations like say somehow civilization is. I think there's scales of civilization. So like when we talk about the Kardashev scale, typically when you talk about the Kardashev scale, you think of civilization's progress or advancement based on the amount of energy that it extracts or harnesses, is using. And there's alternative kind of versions of the Kardashev model. Well, sorry. First of all, there's all these different types, right? So type one is it will access all the energy on its planet. Um, like how it does that is another question. It was just turn the whole planet into a Dyson sphere. Anyway, so but if somehow you could like so also the question of the planets rotating is like so the side facing the sun. It's like that's where the majority of the energy would be because um, it's like there's a couple other suppositions because we're making the assumption they're living on the crust, but they could be living underneath the crust. So the degree to which they're going to be able to, they will be harnessing the geothermal energy, and like if they're going to be, they're obviously going to be doing that intelligently. They're on tap of all that energy. But compared to the amount of energy that's falling on the planet, well, we're making an assumption that this planet is going around a sun. It could be a rogue planet. So they may have to rely on some other means of energy, harvesting energy, right? Type 2, on the other hand, is like consuming all the energy from the stars. Is like, I think this would be a Dyson sphere. Sorry, I guess type 1 could be also be a Dyson sphere. Actually, I would have to look at the Dyson sphere again. Is it only built around a star? Because you could have a fake Dyson sphere. Okay, solar power output. Okay, it looks like it's around the star system. And type 3 would be on the galactic scale. Then there would be type 4, I guess, beyond, well, you could say beyond type 3. Uh, bunch of galaxies that maybe the galaxies around the great attractor, then you kind of go from that scale onwards. There's like a whole range. But this is an interesting Wikipedia article because not only is it looking at the actual Kardashev scale, but it's looking at the reassessment is interesting. So I haven't gone through all of these. I can't remember the last time I went through the Wikipedia article. But for example, Zubrin, Robert Zubrin's got like Robert Zubrin's take is that as opposed to the energy being harnessed, we should think about the Kardashian model in terms of the mastery over the planet or the resources. So a type 2 uh, planet would be interplanetary. I mean, obviously, Robert Zubrin is big on Mars, his Mars Society, and he's done tremendous work promoting that angle from a lot of different perspectives, including actual innovations that could be leveraged on Mars, will be leveraged on Mars. So yeah, that's like more of a space angle. Yeah, I'm not going to go through all the different reassessments. There's also a time angle, so that's called I think something temporal. Where was this? Um, I can't remember, but if I search for temporal, there's a time angle. I just forget where exactly. I think it's towards the end. I've not read the whole Wikipedia page. I'm not going to go through I'm not going to invoke the whiteness. Sorry, it's called the great filter. The great filter. I'm not going to go through that right now. Yeah, okay, let's come back to the Drake's equation. I gotta stop this video and come back and do a part three. Um, so yeah, I don't know, like if civilization would itself send signals into space. I think if the means, the probability that super intelligence or like stuff as things go the route of AGI, I would think. I think it can go one of the many ways. In random order, civilization could destroy itself if the right safeguards are not in place. Um, if everything goes well, check, 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 then probably entails, think that um, I gotta take a break. I'm gonna hold on to this thought, take a break, and come back.